Hello everybody and welcome back. It is Michael from How Thrills back with another video, and today we have another big HHN information episode. Today we have our second speculation map. I know this one came out like a week or two ago at this point, but I wanted to still break it down for you guys and kind of give you guys my thoughts based on the changes that came up on this map. So huge shout out to HHN Nightmares once again for this amazing map. Speculation season would not be the same without you. But let's start off with what is different on this map. Like I said, there are a ton of changes on this map this time around. So we're gonna start off in the front of the park like normal, and then we're gonna go basically around the horn until we get to the end. So let's start off with the house that's in Soundstage 23A, all the way in the front of the park. Last year we had Blood Moon Dark Offering in this section, but this year, in the last episode, we had just the South America with the Central America and just kind of the map of it. And this time we still have that same thing, that same logo, but they added some trees in the inside of it, of South America, which leads me to believe we may have some sort of like Amazon rainforest-esque style folklore house that we may be getting this year. Now I did a little bit of research and tried to find out, okay, what Amazon rainforest folklore do we have for Brazil? And the couple that I found in particular that were really interesting was the Coripira, the Mapungari, and the Boitata. The Coripira is kind of like a gremlin style or a goblin style man with like fiery red hair and feet that are backwards, and kind of what his deal is that he is the protector of the animals in the Amazon rainforest. So he protects the animals and the other inhabitants of the rainforest from poachers and hunters. So honestly, he's kind of a good guy if you really think about it. So I'm not entirely sure if we'd have him in the house, but it is a very interesting creature just because his feet are backwards, so he uses that to his advantage to kind of pull hunters towards where he may actually be, as they will follow his footprints to figure out, okay, where did that come from? Who was over there exactly? So that was our first thing that I thought. Then they have the Mapungari, which is more of like a kind of a furry cyclops is what I've kind of been seeing with kind of information about it. It's a big furry creature with long arms with some big claws at the end, has one big eye and then a massive like mouth in its stomach with some super sharp fangs. Looks really terrifying, kind of along the lines of a Yeti, so I don't know if he'd exactly be doing that in particular. And then the last one was the Boitata, and this one was basically a fire viper. A fire viper that protects the animals again, and also kind of protects the waters of the Amazon. Honestly, any of these I could see being a possibility, but I do find the inclusion of the trees this time around to be important in this. But let's talk about our next one. Our next one, in the last speculation map, we had kind of the skull with the fangs, and we weren't really sure what that was going to be. Now this time around we do have a new logo. Now this logo looks and appears to be just the female gender logo with the Bride of Frankenstein hair at the top. And to me, this just screams kind of like gender bent Universal monsters. So we might have all the Universal monsters, but they might be like female counterparts of them, or straight up just a female variation of the Universal monsters, like a female Dracula, female Frankenstein, maybe even a male Bride. We might see kind of like a flip-flop of everything. That would be really interesting. But I also kind of wanted to point to maybe the story that we will be getting over in Epic Universe that they're kind of going for, where Dr. Frankenstein is actually played by a female character, and the whole story behind that they're going for is very interesting. So maybe they'll use this to kind of lead into the story we'll be getting in Epic Universe. I'm not sure, but this does kind of lead us towards possibly having this being our Universal Monsters house for this year. And this would be located in Soundstage 22. Now let's move on to one that hasn't changed basically whatsoever, and that's the Soundstage 23B house, and that's still that Cadillac logo. Still more than likely going to be Ghostbusters. A lot of people are trying to consider the fact that it might be Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't think so. I think that this is more than likely going to be Ghostbusters. It just makes the most sense. And with the most recent movie coming out, they could try either do 1 and 2 of that franchise or 1 and 2 of the old franchise. Who knows? But now let's move all the way into that back corner where we had Dueling Dragons last year. That back corner was in the last map kind of that black and white skull logo. Now we have a logo that was all the way back in the sprung tents moved all the way up to the front, and that's that speaker with the little circle and slash through it. It's looking more and more like it's going to be Quiet Place. I'm not sure how that's going to really work in a house. I'm not really on board with this one. It could be cool with the creatures and everything. They would be really terrifying, but I'm interested to see kind of how they would bring in the whole super quiet aspect of the house, of the movie into a house. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work. Personally, for me, I would much rather have something like Dead Silence or Silent Hill be in this spot. But like I said, speculation and rumors are more tailing towards this being a Quiet Place as of right now. Now, right next door is another one that hasn't really quite changed a lot since the last speculation map, and this is the location in Soundstage 24B. And this is last speculation map. This was that little lollipop, and now it has changed to kind of more of a wrapped up piece of candy. Still candy themed, and it's still looking like, at least in my opinion, that it's going to be Major Sweets, which this might actually be, the more and more I'm seeing it, this might actually be a spot on hit for me from my first speculation, so I would be super hyped for that. And I honestly thought that scare zone was amazing. So I would be excited for this possibly being a house, and I feel like this is one of the scare zones over the last couple years that fits mostly in a house theme. Now let's move on to the Fast and Furious location. As last speculation map, we had an unknown IP in this location, and what we have there for this speculation map is still unknown, but it's changed to an original. Now, I'm not sure if something happened, whether the IP that was supposed to go there fell through or what exactly happened, but right now it's listed as an original, and it's kind of a bummer if you ask me. I would have much rather had this be an IP. We'll kind of talk about why in a little bit, but it's an original. I can't be mad about an original, but it's just kind of a shame that we're going to be losing an IP if this is what happened. But now let's move on to our first of 4 sprung tents, and it looks like we have now moved all of these sprung tent entrances all the way back over to where Fear Factor Live is and where Men in Black is, which last episode we had one over by the new DreamWorks area. So I'm not sure if this is where all of them they're going to be. This is just speculation as of right now. But our first tent, Tent 3, has now changed to a little bucket of popcorn. Now, there's a lot of speculation about what this could mean, whether we see the Usher return, that being Julian Browning, not the pop star. But personally, I'd love to see Julian come back. Maybe that means we'll have a Silver Scream type house where we have a bunch of different smaller IPs in one house, who knows? Or something along the lines of All Night Dyin', maybe we'll have the director back for it, where it's still kind of that whole miscellaneous IP house. But the current big rumor about what this could possibly be, since this is being labeled as an original, is the return of Slaughter Sinema. Slaughter Sinema was an amazing house at HHN 28, and it's looking like the current rumors are that this tent house could be Slaughter Sinema 2. And for those who don't know what Slaughter Sinema was, it was basically made up B films in a compilation house, and it was glorious, and some of those ideas have actually made their way into having their own houses. One of the examples that I have is Swamp Yeti, which is at the end of Slaughter Sinema, which has now been made into 2 separate Yeti houses after that. So I'm super excited to see maybe the possibility of Slaughter Sinema returning, because that was once again one of my favorite houses of all time. Now let's move on to Tent 4. Now Tent 4 last time was listed as an unknown original, and now this has switched to an IP, and this is probably one of the biggest rumored IPs as of right now. A lot of talk about this IP in particular, and the logo that we have this time around is a lantern, and like I said, a lot of talk about this one, and it's looking like it's pointing towards Insidious. Now for the poster of the red door, one of the characters is holding a lantern, so it more than likely will be Insidious, whether it be the Red Door or whether it be just a compilation of all of the movies that we have up until this point. That is yet to be seen, but personally I have technically been through an Insidious house. I went through the Horrors of Blumhouse Volume 1 at HHN 27, which did have a section for Insidious, which was by far my favorite part of the house. It was absolutely terrifying. So I'm interested to see, once Insidious gets its own house, how it will play out and if it will actually be as terrifying as I'm hoping. But that's probably the IP that I'm most looking forward to. And the reason I am now talking about that being the most interesting IP is because that's our last IP that we have listed on this current speculation map. As right now we have a 4/6 IP to original split, which is very interesting, and which is why I was saying it would be a little bit disappointing if that unknown IP that we lost at the Fast and Furious is now an original, because that means we're getting less IPs, which really is what draws people into the event, those IPs. Now, like I said, I love originals as much as the next guy, but I would love to see some sort of big IP come to the event, because none of the current IPs that we have are really hard hitters, if you ask me. But let's move on to tent number 2, one of our 2 original sprung tents, and this one is where I believe our black and white skull went to from the last speculation map, as this one is a black and white split house. Now we moved from that skull to this house style, so my thought process is that we were speculating last map that it was going to be some sort of house based on the Tribute of Terror tribute store from last year, which was kind of that comic book style, different stories, compilation house. And this time around, I'm thinking that this is still going to be sort of that comic book style house, but I think that this is going to be more of a Boris Schuster story, just based solely on the fact that houses and that sort of thing have been, and mansions and estates have kind of been more of along the lines of stories with the Spirit Seekers and Boris Schuster, whether that be the Wyandotte estate or various other things throughout Horror Nights history that Boris has investigated. But the only reason I'm saying that it's pointing more towards Boris rather than anything else is because of the section of the tribute store last year. Boris was the only section that was solely black and white. Everything else had pops of color, and Boris was just solely black and white. Now, if we got that kind of style in an actual house, where that section of the tribute store, where it was all kind of that black and white newspaper print with a little bit of pop of color here and there, I would love that if that was just the entire thing of this house. That would be super trippy. They could hide scare actors on the walls and everything. This would be really awesome if we just literally dove into a Boris Schuster comic. That would be fantastic, and I think that that's kind of where this is leading us to at this current point in time. Now, our last house here is sprung tent number 1. Last time this was a kind of a Greek mythology rumor was what was going on with this one, as it was rumored that we'd be getting some sort of maybe labyrinth Minotaur style house, and it's looking like that is no longer the case, as the logo for this has now changed to almost like a museum style thing that I'm thinking at this point. It looks like there's like stanchions in front of a painting or almost a framed picture of a Egyptian eye of some sort. Whether that be an Egyptian style house or a museum, kind of almost like Night at Museum style house, I'm not entirely sure. It's a bit disheartening because I was really on board with the labyrinth style house that we could possibly have gotten. I still love the potential of this house, but I'm interested to see where we went from how it went from the possibility of being a labyrinth Minotaur house to now being what this is currently rumored being some sort of Egyptian museum. Now, would I love to see just a straight up Egyptian house? Absolutely, because I missed out on Tomb of the Ancients, which I heard was an amazing house. So if we could just bring some sort of, I'm not going to say copy, but something along the lines of that to Horror Nights this year, I'm sold. I'm sold on that. But right now, at least for me, Originals are running away with it as far as what I'm more excited for. Now looking at Scare Zones, no information about Scare Zones as of yet. And as far as shows, unfortunately, that second show that was being rumored is no longer there. I know we were thinking, okay, maybe it'll be the return of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. But like I said, it's no longer there, which is a bit of a shame because I was hoping that we would get a second show this year as we desperately needed to cover up some crowds. Maybe we'll have the Lagoon Show coming back. I know Cinesational just got announced recently. So that means the Lagoon shows are coming back. So maybe we'll have a Lagoon Show back this year. Who knows? I would love to see the Lagoon Show come back or just a second show in general. But as far as the other show goes, it's looking like it's still going to be Nightmare Fuel. Nightmare Fuel, that fire logo is still there over by Fear Factor. So maybe they'll switch it up this year. Who knows? I hope that they really kind of develop a different story this year. I know we have the new Nightmare Queen, so who knows what could happen with the Fuel Girls and the Nightmare Fuel show. But that is it for Speculation Map 2.0. If you guys did enjoy this little breakdown, please make sure you drop a like and also comment down below, out of this entire map, what is the house you're most excited for? And if there are any changes that you would make on this map, what would they be? I'd like to know down in the comments below. But as always, I'm Michael from Hollow Thrills, giving the all clear, and all clear means you're out of here. See you guys next time.